President Ramaphosa met with Donald Trump at the White House amid tensions over U.S. refugee offers to white South African farmers and land reform controversies back home. Ramaphosa is likely the first African president to visit Trump at the White House in his second term. The main issue here is the allegations of forceful land grabbing from white South African farmers. How did we get here? So let's put the issue into context. The Africans Boers, descendants of Dutch settlers, began seizing land from indigenous South Africans in the 17th century, but the most forceful expansions occurred in the 18th and 19th centuries. Driven by land hunger and racial superiority, they pushed into Xhosa, Zulu, and Sotho territories. The most brutal campaigns included the Frontier Wars, 1779-1879, and the Anglo-Zulu War, 1879, where thousands of indigenous people were killed or displaced. The Boers used superior firearms and horses, forming commandos that raided villages, captured land, and enslaved or displaced locals. One major turning point was the Great Trek, 1830s-1840s, where Boer groups migrated inland, violently clashing with established African kingdoms. Casualties ran into the tens of thousands, and entire communities were destroyed or subjugated. These land seizures laid the foundation for apartheid-era dispossession, stripping indigenous South Africans of ancestral lands and shaping centuries of inequality and resistance. It must be noted here, the total number of black casualties over the centuries runs into tens of thousands.
Fast forward today, the President of the United States chastised the South African leadership for the alleged land seizure of white farmers. On live TV, what an irony compared to what black South Africans suffered in history.
Some view current reforms as long overdue justice. Others argue it's a dangerous path repeating the past, but in reverse. The clash reveals a nation still haunted by unresolved colonial legacies, inequality, and racial trauma. President Ramaphosa's visit to the White House marks a powerful moment in history. A peaceful meeting that contrasts sharply with the violent past of South Africa's colonial encounters. Unlike the brutal land seizures and bloodshed inflicted by white settlers on the Zulus, Xhosa, and others, this diplomatic engagement symbolizes a better path. Dialogue over domination. It reflects a maturing African leadership making constructive overtures, reminiscent of the warm U.S.-Africa engagements during President Kennedy's era, when African leaders were welcomed with respect. Although this spirit faded in later decades, only briefly rekindled under Obama, Ramaphosa's visit offers hope for renewed ties. It suggests that Africa and the U.S. can address tough issues, like land reform and migration, with understanding, not suspicion. In a world still grappling with the legacies of colonialism, this moment reminds us that reconciliation and partnership are not just possible, they are necessary.